Hello and welcome, Varieties students. This is a new lecture on the language of press. We are still dwelling on popular newspapers. Last time we saw some aspects of layout, graphology, chromatics, and typography. Today we're going to shed light on some aspects of grammar and phraseology, the kind of patterns of sentences and phrases we have in or that are popular in newspapers. So let's get started. Before we look at the outline of today, remember that popular newspaper has three characteristics. First of all, it tries to achieve simplicity and clarity and informality. Now, these are three important aspects of popular newspapers to keep in mind whenever you perform any kind of analysis regarding this type of text. This is the outline of our lecture. We're going to look at grammar aspects, including sentence structure, clause structure, noun phrase, verb phrase. Then we will move to tense, voice, subject verb inversion, adjectival phrases, adverbial phrases, and we will wrap it up with a home assignment due to next week. As for grammar, the stylistic analysis of grammar of the language of popular newspaper may include the following points: sentence structure, clause structure, noun phrase, verb phrase, tense, voice, inversions, adverbial phrase, and adjectival phrases. We will begin our presentation today with sentence structure. In fact, there are three remarkable features of sentence structure. First of all, sentences are mainly simple. That is to say, consist of one clause. In fact, most of the sentences of the articles in Figure 1, for example, are simple sentences. There aren't so many compound or complex sentences. In fact, this is a general tendency in all popular newspapers, which reflects the function of simplifying the reading task and also simplifying the skimming and scanning to the readers. Some simple sentences could be relatively long. This is not to complicate things for readers, but to give a complete idea about the sentence refers to. Sometimes you might come across or run into quite long sentences, but this is not because to complicate the task on the reader, but to convey a whole idea into one single semantic unit or into one sentence, instead of breaking this idea into simple sentences. The writer here targets to give this one idea in one single sentence. The second point is the insistence on simple sentences sometimes leads popular newspapers to unusual segmentation or ungrammatical or abnormal segmentation of complex sentences into two main parts. The first one represents the main clause, the second includes the subordinate clause headed by a subordinate verb, as we have in the leading article, paragraph 4. Sometimes, because the journalists insist on using simple style of sentences, they would even treat complex sentences as simple units. For example, you know that a complex sentence is made of one main clause and one subordinate clause. The main clause can stand by itself, but the subordinate clause doesn't stand by itself, but still they treat it as a simple as independent clause. Let's look at the example to understand even more. Now a major row has flared over the health alert. 4 council chiefs deny that asbestos is a danger. Now you notice that this two sentences could have been one sentence, a complex sentence. Okay, now a major row has flared over the health alert can stand up as a main clause. For council chiefs deny that the asbestos is a danger, this can be a subordinate clause. So normally we don't begin a sentence with a subordinating conjunction like for without having another clause that is to say the main clause. In other words, the second sentence can only serve as a subordinate clause for the first sentence, which is the main clause. Therefore, these two sentences should be one sentence, consists of two clauses, main and subordinate. The intention to simplify sentences has led to the breakdown of the normal rule of structuring them, which in turn reflects the informal use of English in this type of newspapers. You see how would journalists violate rules to achieve simplicity, and it also reflects a kind of informality of this type or this style of language. Another remarkable feature of sentence structure in popular newspaper articles is that the dominance of declarative sentences. Newspapers, whether popular or quality, have something to report on. They of course report in declarative statements and not in questions or comments or negations. So the use of declarative type of sentences enables the newspaper to report information, events, news, etc. fluently. However, there is an occasional use of questions, especially rhetorical questions, usually at the beginning or end of an article. But what is a rhetorical question in the first place? Let's find out what a rhetorical question is. In fact, rhetorical questions are open questions having no definite, straightforward answers, or having no answers at all. Rhetorical questions aims at involving and communicating with the readers. That is to say, for example, what could be the next stage? Will the Parliament agree on the new amendment? Okay, so maybe the author would start his article with these questions. He's not looking for any answers from the part of the reader, but it's a technique used to make readers engage into the reading process, and also this impact the reader's attention and perception towards the text and the context of the topic. So the stylistic function of rhetorical question are mainly predictive, inquiring about possible occurrences of something pending or in the future. Okay, as the examples above show. What could be the next stage now? Maybe a writer could start his article with this question, or will the Parliament agree on the new amendment? So the reader would absolutely find himself interacting indirectly with the reading material. So now let's sum it up. This is what we have covered so far. So sentences are simple. This is to simplify reading and accelerate skimming. The ungrammaticality of some sentences. This is to reflect informality of style. And remember the example of breaking a complex sentence into two main simple sentences. This is ungrammatical but accepted in the sphere of newspaper articles. Declarative sentence writing or declarative sentences are dominant. This is to report news to readers fluently. The use of rhetorical questions sometimes this is to involve and communicate with readers indirectly and subtly. Now let's move to clause structure. Clause structures are usually simple for easiness and understanding, but in a few cases we might come across complicated, rather abnormal clause structure like this one. Okay, those yeah haha got it wrong again remarks of the public. Okay, so those. As for noun phrases, the interesting remark about nouns is their frequent modifications. That is to say, we always have modifiers for nouns. Okay, so the modifier could be before the noun, or it could be after the noun, as shown here. Okay, remember that all these examples are taken from the articles available in the figure in a newspaper part or popular newspaper part. Okay, so these are some of the nouns with their modifiers. As you can see, the tenants, we have the determiner plus noun. Homeless families, we have adjective plus noun. Asbestos, dust peril, we have adjectival nouns. Okay, two adjectival nouns plus the nouns. Okay, so peril is modified by the two adjectival nouns. Tycoon in train, robber probe, adjectival nominal phrase. Okay, so we have tycoon in train, robber probe. The whole phrase is basically an adjectival nominal phrase, and plus the noun probe. Yeah, got it wrong again remarks, adjectival clause plus noun. Alright, so these examples illustrate the various types of pre-modifications. Remember that, for example, during the exam, or you might you'd be asked of show me some adjectives with their or some noun phrases with their pre-modifications, and you're gonna like end up with something like this chart that shows the category of each part of speech. All right, now let's move to verb phrase. The following points are interesting about verb phrases in popular newspaper. First of all, we have the absence of the verb. Okay, and this is quite prominent in headlines and subheadings, as in the following two examples: asbestos dust peril revealed. So instead of asbestos dust peril is revealed, we don't have the linking verb here. So, and this is, remember that it's all done for the sake of brevity. Okay, because the space in newspapers in general, be them quality or popular newspapers, space is of great importance. There is always this problem of spacing. We don't have so much space, so that's why sometimes we end up dropping out some unnecessary words, some words that if we drop them we still can convey the message. All right, now in this, for example, this usually happens especially with titles, big titles and so on, that take so much space, so we end up deleting some of the verbs. This is quite common. Of course, now if you do this in your academic writing, this can be seen as an expensive mistake, a major grammatical mistake, but this can be widely done in the sphere of newspaper and journalism writing. This is a ritual here, or a norm, that you can always drop out any verb that doesn't really, as far as doesn't cripple the reader's understanding, and so that you can make your message across, then it's really okay. All right, now a space-suited technician checking tower blocks. instead of space suited technician is chicken tower blocks, then we also deleted or removed the linking verb is here. This is quite common. It's abnormal, it's remarked, it's ungrammatical, but it is this is the norm when it comes to the style of newspaper writing. So the omission of the verb phrase is deliberate for the sake of saving space and shortness of headlines in particular. The verbs which are omitted are relatively easy to guess from the context, and their absence doesn't cripple understanding. They are mostly verbs of be, as, is, and are, or have or has of some form. In all cases, this reflects the informality of the style of the English of popular newspaper. As for a tense, in fact, the most overconsumed and overused tense in newspaper writing or in journalism in general is the present simple. The use of the present simple to refer to actions either in the past or the future in headlines or subheadings. Look at these two examples. The two leaders meet this morning now, and the two leaders meet tomorrow morning. For the first example, this could refer to the past, to a meeting that already has finished and completed, but still the use of present simple is basic here. The two leaders meet this morning, and the two leaders meet tomorrow morning. This refers to something in the future. Another form that is preferable by journalists is the use of the two infinitive in their headlines and subheadings. For example, the two leaders to meet next month. Okay, now this expresses an action in the past, and usually with the use of this kind of form is accompanied with the deletion of the main verb, that is to say is or are. Now usually the construction of this form is the two leaders are to meet next month, but we deleted the verb to be and we kept it in this way, the two leaders to meet next month. Of course, this doesn't cripple the changing whatsoever. This is preferred to save space as well as indicate the informality of language. Another remarkable and really striking feature when it comes to journalistic writing is the use of voice. Let's find out more about this. The use of active voice. Both the active and passive voices are used, but the active is more dominant in popular newspapers. The reason to use active, like all the time or mostly, is to reveal almost everything. Remember that in the first lectures we saw that popular newspapers basically deals with the public's questions and interests and curiosities. So it provides them answers to who and why and what and when. All right, so everything is revealed, everything is important to them. So everything about an event, an incident, an accident, and a person or any kind of news is revealed. All right, so nothing is hidden because it targets towards the scandaling. Okay, it's all about scandaling. So there is nothing that is hidden or nothing that is taken for granted. Everything is explicitly in the open, however rude, revealing, sharp, serious, scandalous, distractive, frustrating, or even repulsive. Everything is explicit and in the open. All right, so it Also underlines the subjective nature of the style of popular newspaper. It's never objective. It's never, doesn't deal with, with logic, and no, it deals with, making a lot of selling, and so they have to work on all these features of revealing everything. All of this done to arouse the reader's interest and curiosity, and to convince him or her to buy. Now, buy here between two inverted comma, because this is all commercial. To buy the newspaper after all. Okay, because remember that this is all commercial. They just want to sell as more as they can. Still, it's always possible to come across examples of passive voice in popular newspaper, but when it is only to avoid mentioning the doer of the action, who is literally and really not important. So in this case, this the passive voice can be deployed in such cases. Another common pattern found in popular newspapers is the subject-verb inversions. Okay, now this sounds to be like poetic, but it's true. This is done in popular newspapers. This is quite common, especially with verbs of saying. For example, said the spokesman instead of the spokesman said. Okay, so said the spokesman. Here we have the subject verb inversion. Of course, the subject is the spokesman and said is the verb. This is the normal order of subject verb. The order reflects deviance from normal use and coincides with narrative style, because such inversion is characteristic of narrative or of poetic language. Now we tackle adjectival phrases. Adjectives are quite important in popular newspapers. They are common and used to point out the function of detailed, precise description and exaggeration. When they are outlandish or completely unusual, they serve as eye catchers to readers. Alright, so they are always used as eye catchers. For example, yeah, got it wrong again remark. Now this is very unusual, very remarkable, very striking to the eye. So passerbyers or readers would absolutely catch this out, and they would, arouse their interest to read it. A space-suited technician. Okay, so everyone would be really interested in knowing how is a technician in space suited, so they would try to understand, or a hoped for decision as well. Okay, so you see these forms, these compound forms of adjectival phrases. Okay, so a hoped for decision. All these examples exhibit the use of clauses as adjectives, which is not the normal use in English. When it comes to adverbial phrases, adverbials of all types are used, and they are crucial in popular newspapers. Popular newspapers use adverbs at the beginning of sentences to emphasize events with regard to time. Of course, now when you find out more about what adverbials are or adverbial phrases, you'll find that they are common and used widely in newspapers. First of all, we have adverbs of time like today, now, when, while, tomorrow, and or then. And we also have adverbs of place, here, there, inside, outside, far away. You see how crucial these words are in the description of events or actions. Adverbs of manner, quickly, violently, calmly, unbelievably, or faintly. Adverbs of reason, such as because, for, that is why. Adverbs of result, thus, so that, therefore, and hence. Adverbs of frequency, always, often, frequently, usually. adverbs of additions, moreover, in addition, besides, furthermore, adverbs of contrast, yet, but, however, in fact, on the contrary, adverbs of certainty, certainly, for certain, surely, for sure, undoubtedly, definitely, absolutely, and verily. And also adverbs of order like first or firstly, at first, second, next, then, at this stage. So all these adverbs are of prime importance, especially for precision of news reporting. We can also note the unpredictable position of adverbs. They are loosely used in this type of newspaper. Such free and unusual mobility of adverbs is used either to emphasize a specific word in the sentence. Usually the adverb is placed immediately before such a word, or merely for stylistic variation in the text. Now, in the normal or in the conventional use of adverbs, sometimes they come in the end of a sentence, or sometimes they come, between the subject and the verb. But in this type of writing, they have unpredictable position. They can be situated before the subject or after the complement or whatever. So they are used in variation. Okay.